guys, so this is a video I've been thinking about making for a while. This is my story of why I am so mentally messed up, I guess, and why I have issues with relationships. This isn't really a way to cry poor pitiful me, feel sorry for me. This is more just trying to tell it and get it off my chest. Maybe it'll help me a little bit. I mean, it's been a few years and it still gets to me every day. So, I was originally going to do this all in one video, but I started writing everything down so I wouldn't forget anything, and just the first 2 years of this, it took about almost 7 pages. So, the first video is going to be during high school. The second video is going to be during my freshman year of college. And the third one is going to be post-breakup. I also just want a disclaimer. This is not me trying to talk about how much I hate him and all of that. I'm not trying to make like a witch hunt or anything. This is just me trying to lay everything out. So yeah, let's get started. So before my sophomore year of high school, I was never really a big dater. Like, I had one boyfriend in middle school, and we ended up dating for about a year before we ended up breaking up. And then we got back together freshman year of high school for a couple days, maybe a week. That ended up with us breaking up and a whole bunch of drama coming out of that. So I pretty much stayed single for the rest of my freshman year. Sophomore year of high school, I decided to be a bit more confident in myself and put myself out there more. This did pay off. I did start dating someone at the beginning of my sophomore year. And this was back when on Facebook you could do the button shares and you had that little cork board and you could just send buttons back and forth to each other. So that whole first week we were dating, that's what we did constantly, was just send these little things back and forth. I remember standing on the blacktop at practice one day and looking up, and there was like a heart-shaped cloud, and I was like, oh, life is good. This is great. You know, when you're 15, that's just what you do. And then we ended up breaking up, and, you know, I was upset. I think it was more I didn't have someone to notice the heart clouds and send me cute little Facebook buttons anymore, but months pass, we get back together. This time it's even shorter. It's like 2 days. And so I was like, you know what? Fine. Apparently we're not meant to be together. So I guess more kind of like I realized I start flirting with someone, and he starts flirting back, and, you know, cute little high school, oh, we're so cute. We start dating. The relationship lasted about 3 months. It was actually, you know, it was a good relationship for being in high school. Long term, no, I don't think it would have worked out regardless. But so about 3 months later, we ended up breaking up. And I remember I was mostly just upset, not so much about the breakup because I knew that would have been coming. It was more the fact that we broke up via Facebook. And it was just, I was so mad. I was like, really? This is how you're going to do it? Fine, whatever. And friendship kind of didn't really last after that. And 2 boyfriends within the 1 year actually did a whole lot for me, because I had always been that weird girl, the one who was always overweight, and just, I had gone through my whole anime phase, my whole I'm different, look at me, I'm special kind of phase. And so to be noticed, it was great. And then, so after me and the second boyfriend broke up, my friend's ex started hitting me up, and we had been friends. We knew each other from band. We never had a class together, but we knew each other. He was a senior, I was a sophomore. And he would be messaging me, and, you know, I'd text him back. Then he'd start flirting with me, and at first I remember thinking, no, this guy's creepy. I don't want anything to do with him. But then, slowly but surely, just the, oh, hey, someone's noticing me, kind of started kicking in. And it was really nice. And so I agreed to go on a date with him, which happened to be his birthday dinner. And so that's fine. We went to dinner, and I just felt so out of place because he was the only person I knew there, and his two sisters were there, their friends were there, and I was just, nobody knew who I was except for him, and they were all kind of just giving me a look like, ooh, who are you bringing? But the next day we had band banquet, and it was great. My freshman year I didn't have a date to banquet, and so again it was nice being noticed. So we go through the award ceremony and all the fanciness, and everything's great. We get to the dance portion, and I remember everyone congregates to the dance floor, and I look over at him and I'm like, so are you going to ask me to dance? And he tells me no, he's not going to dance. So I'm just, okay, fine, bye. So I walk off, I go find my friends, we're dancing, he's off with his friends doing who knows what. And I start getting really mad. And so I sit down at his table and I'm just fuming. He finally comes over and he's like, what's wrong? Why are you upset? It's because you just blew me off for your friends. And he apologizes. And we end up slow dancing together. And then we spent the rest of the banquet together, just running around this hotel, being crazy teenagers. And then the night ends, and it's just this magical thing. Pretty sure that's the night that we had our first kiss. So I'm texting him the next day, and he asked me to be his girlfriend. And so, naturally, being super excited, I said yes. So, looking back on this relationship now, there were so many red flags from the very beginning that had this happened to me now, I would have ended it right then. But being 16, I didn't know any better. And so I didn't know these signs to look for. I never really saw a healthy, wonderful, loving relationship in my life. I didn't know what they were. And so when these signs pop up, how am I supposed to know any different? The first sign that I should have picked up on immediately was we were kind of setting some like ground rules for the relationship, which, okay, that's normal. But I remember one of the rules he said was we shouldn't sleep together for 6 months, which I was a very strange teenager and I wasn't that interested in sex. And growing up in Central Texas, the only form of sex ed that I had was abstinence only. And so I didn't even really know that much about sex. And so to say let's wait 6 months, it didn't click in my head right. I agreed that sounded reasonable. And so that would also give me some time to fall for this guy even more, and then it would be like wonderful first time romantic fantasy fairy tale experience. Another red flag that I should have picked up on was he would tell me quite often that guys typically don't keep their high school girlfriends. They usually break up with them when they graduate. But I also didn't really think much of it because we started dating just about a week or two before he graduated. But I always just thought that was kind of weird, but never picked up that this was a sign that things weren't going to work. So also because I was young and naive, about a month into the relationship, I started realizing that I was falling pretty hard for him. We spent almost all our time together. I didn't have a job yet. He did have a part-time job, but all of his free time and all of my free time we just spent together. I realized that I was starting to fall in love with him. And I had this wonderful plan in my mind that when my sister got married at the beginning of July, that I was going to be slow dancing with him and just like lay my head against his shoulder and tell him that I loved him. And it was going to be this huge romantic, again, fairy tale relationship that didn't happen. So a few weeks before the wedding, we were, just texting like normal. And he mentioned something about wanting to sleep with each other. I don't remember the exact text. I mean, this was back in 2009. So he says something about us sleeping together. And I tell him, like, look, I don't want to have sex with you unless I'm in love with you. Because, again, being 16 and having abstinence-only education, that's how I felt. But so he tells me, well, what if I said I was in love with you? And me actually being smart for once, I say, well, I would assume that you were saying that just to sleep with me. And so he starts saying, why would you think that I would say something like that? How could you think that? I'm going to have to rethink this relationship. And so I freaked out and told him, like, look, no, I'm sorry. Look, I love you. It's just, I thought that you were saying this just to sleep with me. I'm sorry. Please don't leave me, because I didn't want to ruin something that I thought was just the greatest thing in my life. And he's sitting there like, no, I don't want to go. I don't even know your sister. We haven't even been dating that long. Why would I go? But luckily, his sister knew my sister in high school and had been invited to the wedding, so she dragged him there. And so instead of getting to spend all this time with my family and just having the celebration, I spent the entire evening during the reception with him and with his sister. For the whole rest of that month, we start getting a little bit more serious. We start messing around with one another and, getting walked in on, that whole teenage rite of passage. The beginning of August of that year, this was just like a weekend before I went back for summer band camp, we end up actually sleeping together. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm going back to band and everything's going to be different. I'm a completely different person than I was just a week ago. Like, I feel so much more grown up now and just so much more sophisticated. Who knows why having sex makes you sophisticated, but so the next few months went on, and since it's been so long, there's not a whole lot I remember. I do remember he did encourage me to lose weight, and I did. I stopped going out to eat to fast food so often, and I started eating smaller portions, and within just a few months, I ended up dropping about 20 pounds, give or take. I went from a size 8 to 10 to down to a 2 or 4, and I felt so great about myself. It was never enough. I always needed to be skinnier, and just because I wore a size 2 doesn't mean that I'm super skinny. You can always improve. You need to keep going. But unfortunately, I had plateaued. So I was not very interested in having sex with him. We did, but I wasn't, hey, let's go have sex. My parents aren't home, let's go have sex. But he wanted to do it every single day. And I did not want to. He would insist and tell me that teenagers, like, studies show that they're having sex every day and they're having sex way more than we are. We need to be doing it more often and all of these kind of things. And like I said, I hadn't really been into sex as a teenager, but because I can't handle confrontation, I went along with it. A few months later, into my junior year, I want to say it was around October or November, he started having fights with my friends. And, then all of a sudden, as this fight is progressing, I would get thrown in the middle of it. And, I don't know who started what, who said what. I don't know what's going on. But, so, it ends up with me siding with him because, again, this is me being 16 and crazy in love and not wanting to ruin this great thing that I have. And I end up losing 2 friends. One of them had been my best friend since we were in middle school. And I honestly thought I was never going to get to be friends with her again. I blew off my junior year band lock-in because I was fighting with my friends and I didn't want to go because I had no friends. And so I opted to hang out with him instead. And at the time, I thought it was a great idea, but now I'm I'm honestly starting to regret that I didn't go and that I had chosen him over my friends. Eventually this fight had blown over, and I am still best friends with this girl to the day, but at the time we were at a point where I don't want to ever see your face again. It won't break my heart any if we never talk again. So as the months went on, he started making more and more jabs at me. These included things like, you need to lose more weight, why aren't you pretty enough for me, why don't you wear more makeup for me, why are you wearing dresses, they don't look good on you, you should call in sick to work so we can hang out, hey, I see that you're getting a whole bunch of money because your dad's on disability, let's go spend all your money on useless things, and I don't have a job right now, or a license, or a car, so you can drive me everywhere and you can pay for everything. Again, I had never seen a very healthy relationship, so I didn't realize that these were things that your boyfriend's not supposed to say to you, not supposed to do to you. I thought this was because he was in love with me, to be completely honest. So then the later half of my junior year, my sister became pregnant with her daughter. And as a teenager, we were extremely close. She was my best friend. She was someone I could tell anything to. I mean, I even told her right after the first time we slept together. She was constantly trying to get me to come over to her house. Being 17 and just being so in love and having so many other things to do, I opted to spend more time with my boyfriend than with her. And this ended up causing this huge rift between us. She deleted me off Facebook, calling me a bitch on her status. It made life so much harder for me because I didn't want to spend every free moment with her. And that naturally made me cling harder to my ex because he was something that was so good in my life. Our relationship has always been rocky ever since then, and you never know if it's about to fall apart again. But that's a completely different story, and that would take a whole another video series. And I remember I was driving him home one night, and he gets out of the car and walking to his house. And I was just sitting there looking at him go, and I was thinking, I really love this guy. I am so lucky that I have him in my life. I don't know what I would do without him. So of course, right after I start thinking that, everything has to change. Around our 1-year anniversary, so this is May of 2010, he meets this girl named Laura. She is a friend of his sister's boyfriend, and she goes to a different school. And at first I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can have chick friends. I don't care. I'm not that kind of girlfriend. But then he starts texting her as much as, if not more, than he texts me. That's when I start having an issue with it. So I express this to him. I say, hey, look, I don't care if you're friends, but I need you to tone it back because this is making me really uncomfortable. He obviously tells me, like, look, you have nothing to worry about, so it doesn't matter how much I talk to her. And he would go and hang out with her while I wasn't there and not tell me about it until afterwards. There was a time we went to go see a movie together, and I had my legs pulled up into the seat with me, and he asked me why girls sit like that, because when he and this girl saw a movie together, she was sitting like that. And I'm just like, I don't know, it's just what I do. And about halfway through the movie or towards the end, it dawned on me what he said, and I was just furious with him. And he was like, what's wrong? And I tell him, like, you went to a movie with her, and that's not okay, that's a date. And he's telling me that I'm crazy and that he would never cheat on me. Why would I even think things like that? He made me feel like I was the one overreacting when he was the one in the wrong. And so I put it in the back of my mind, and I let our relationship go on. I was starting to have trust issues with him. And so there was one day that we were playing on a playground, and he sets his phone and his keys and his wallet down to go do whatever he was doing off the playscape. And I'm I'm sitting there watching his stuff, and I just casually reach over, grab his phone, and just start going through his texts. And I see a text from her saying, cuddle with you, I want to kiss you, I want to hug you, all of those kind of things. And he says, I have a girlfriend, and she tells him what she doesn't know won't hurt her. And I set his phone down. All the tears in my eyes started to form. I just stand up and I walk away. And he comes running after me, obviously not knowing what's wrong, and I tell him, like, I saw the text from her. I know what's going on. And he's like, look, you saw that I also said that I had a girlfriend and I didn't want anything to do with it, and I stopped talking to her since then. And again, making me feel like I was the one who was overreacting. And so it blows past us, but I never really felt 100% secure in the relationship anymore. As my senior year started a couple months later, I was beginning to trust him again. Like he had said, he stopped talking to her, and he did not text her again. And so, life was great. Well, then, the Twilight movie Eclipse came out, and my friend who had been his ex, and her best friend from her childhood, went to go to the midnight premiere of it. And because he worked at the theater, obviously, he was working the midnight. And he just started talking to them, someone he knew. And somehow, he ended up getting her friend's number. I told him that because this whole Laura situation was still so fresh in my mind, I was uncomfortable with it. He basically tells me again, I'm overreacting. Nothing even happened between them, so nothing's going to happen between the two of them. So just get over it. Always paranoid in high school that I was pregnant. My periods were supposed to come on Tuesday. If it was Tuesday or Wednesday and they were not here, I freaked out that I was pregnant. I mean, I remember going to the grocery store before school one day, buying a pregnancy test, and having my period on the test. That's how much I did not understand about sex. Which is, 1 month this happens, and I'm just freaked out like usual. And I'm driving me and my friend back from lunch, however much time passed in between then. Apparently, her friend asked her, hey, did you hear about Krista's pregnancy scare? And I had not told any of my friends in high school that I was having sex. And so for this to come out to her that way was like the end of the world for me. And so I text him, I'm like, what the hell? Why are you telling people about this? And he's like, this affects me too. Sometimes I need people to rant to. And I was, yelling at him, like, you know that I do this every month. Why are you spreading all this stuff about me now? It's getting back to me. And it made it even worse that her friend went to a different high school. And so it's around my high school, and it's around a different one as well. But so because he's texting her as much as he texts me, if not more, I start getting paranoid again. And I start going through his texts again. I remember seeing a text from him that said, okay, I took the naked one. And her saying, okay. But there was no photos in the conversation, so I couldn't prove that he sent her a nude. But I was so upset, and I threw his phone down on his bed. He came back in from the other room, asked me what was wrong, and I started yelling at him. He tells me some BS lie about how it was to test the lighting, and starts telling me that I'm crazy, that he would never cheat on me, how could I? And because I was so naive, I believed him. After that, he kind of wised up, unfortunately for me, and if he went to take a shower, rather than just take his phone into the bathroom with him, I had to sit in the bathroom with him with his phone, so that way if I ever went through it, he would know immediately. And it was like a way of keeping me in line, I guess. And this continued for the rest of our relationship. But I couldn't get this text out of my head about him taking a naked picture. And so, on my way home from work one day, I text my best friend, and I say, hey, I don't know if I'm overreacting about this or not, but I saw a really weird text on Justin's phone. You know, I had never mentioned anything about this girl before. So it wasn't like she knew any of my insecurities about it. But as soon as I said that, she asked me, was it from Chelsea? And so I was like, how do you know that? And apparently they had been sending each other messages like that back and forth for a while. And she tells me that our other friend has all the messages and to ask her. So I text her and I say, hey, I need you to send me these texts between Justin and Chelsea. And because it was late, I didn't hear from her until the next day. And she says, I don't have them, but I will ask Chelsea for them. And so she starts forwarding me texts from Chelsea saying, well, I don't actually have the messages, but I can tell you what they said. Because she had a really old phone that didn't save the conversations per contacts. It was just as the text came in. But it was things like, I wish my girlfriend was as pretty as you. What she doesn't know won't hurt her. I wish we could be together. Things like that. And I was completely shattered. I cried my eyes out during class, like to the point where my teachers just kind of avoided me. They didn't even want to ask me what was wrong. It felt like, you know, everyone was just moving their desks away from me. And I remember just sobbing and sending her a text back saying, stop, don't send me anymore. And that was about the time that he woke up. And I went off on him saying, how dare you cheat on me with her? Why would you do this to me? And he tells me that I'm screaming like a banshee, that I'm crazy, that he would never do this. Why would I believe them? But I believed that someone who I had been dating for nearly 2 years would not lie straight up to my face like that. And so I made the decision that because I did not have concrete proof that this happened, you know, this could be something that they're doing just designed to break me up with him. I don't know why, but, you know, I decided I'm not going to break up with him. I ended up losing one of my best friends over this. And this was right before our spring break trip for band, and I was so glad that I didn't sign up for it, even though it was to Disney World and Harry Potter World. Because, again, I had no friends. He had me completely cut off from everyone, he had a complete hold over me. After that, so then it was time for prom, which, you know, is one of the most anticipated moments of every American teenager's life. And when we had started dating, he told me he would only go to one prom. And so I obviously decided I wanted to go to senior prom instead of junior year. But so as it starts getting closer to prom, he starts trying to tell me that he doesn't want to go, it's stupid, and why would we go? But I insist. I buy our prom tickets, I buy my dress, which he tried to tell me, don't buy a halter dress, buy something with sleeves, because I've seen you in a halter dress too many times, and I don't want to see you in one again. I had to fight with him to buy me a corsage, stop complaining, and to just go with me, let me have this one night. So eventually, the night of prom comes, and he hadn't seen my dress yet, and it was this cute little pink halter dress, very basic, very cute. And he gets there and he leans over in my ear and tells me, I told you not to buy a halter. And I'm just like, well, I'm not wearing a dress with sleeves to prom. I think this dress is adorable and it looks great on me. So he's complaining about my dress, and then he's complaining about how my hair was done. And no, I wasn't happy with it either, but what are you going to do at that point? It's already hairsprayed together. So, I mean, what are you going to do? He insisted that we get to prom right when the doors open, because some of his friends a few years before had, I guess, gone to a pre-party and showed up to prom too late and weren't allowed inside. So he took that as, you have to get there when the doors open or you can't get in. So I drive us all the way down to downtown Austin, which was at least a 30 to 45 minute drive. We get to the hotel, and it's on the second floor of this hotel. And you have to ride the escalators up. But if you went back down, you weren't allowed to come back. That was it. You're gone. So we go upstairs, and of course, one of my band directors is a chaperone guarding the escalators. So there's no way that we could have snuck down and then snuck back up like, oh, no, we weren't here before. Some chick's wearing the same dress as me. So he is just complaining and complaining the entire time we're there. I don't want to be here. Let's go. Nothing's happening. I'm just going to walk home if we don't leave right now. So an hour in, I've heard enough of it, and I'm say, fine, we'll leave. And so we head back over the escalators, and my band director says, hey, you know if you go back down, you can't come back, right? And I'm fighting tears so hard at this point, and I just say, yes, I know. And he's okay, you look really beautiful. So we go downstairs, we make it outside the doors into the parking lot, and I just lost it, and I'm sobbing as hard as I can. You know, this is a moment I have been so excited for. I spent so much money on this, and we're there for an hour, and for what? And the whole way back to the car, he's, stop crying. You know, you're an ugly crier. Stop it. Why are you even crying? It's not even that big of a deal. And I cry and cry and cry all the way back to my house. And about halfway there, he just gets silent. He knew how much he messed up. And we get back, and he tells me he's just going to walk home, which is about a 7-mile trip from my house, because he needs to think about things. And because I didn't want the night to get any worse, and, you know, not only did I have a horrible prom, but then all of a sudden I'm losing my boyfriend. I tell him, like, no, just come in, let's just please don't leave. So we come in, and I tell my mom some BS story about how it was just boring, and it was stupid, and I can't believe I spent money on this kind of story. And I didn't tell a soul what happened, because I was too ashamed. And I knew that if I told anyone, that they would start asking me, well, why did you let him do this? Like, that is not okay. What the hell? And I don't know, I didn't. So then comes my graduation, which, apart from prom, is the most exciting moment of any high school kid's life. Because all of a sudden, you don't have to come back ever again. You can say that you have reached society's standards of how educated you need to be. He tries to weasel his way out of going to my graduation. And I wasn't having it. I'm like, no, you need to be at my graduation. And luckily, his sister dragged him there, so he got to see me graduate. And obviously, I have family in town at this point. And he insists that when we get back to the high school to get my car, we need to go to his house, not back to my house to spend time with my family. So I didn't want to, but I didn't know how to say no. And so we go to his house for a while. He changes or does whatever it was he wanted to do. And we get back to my house before my graduation party happens. And my friends come over, and it is a bit of a boring party, but I also wasn't much of a partier back then. But so he decides that it's too boring, and he goes outside to play basketball by himself. And so I kind of step away, and I go out there, and I say, hey, you need to come back in and hang out with us. And he starts telling me about how this is a stupid party, all my friends are bored, he doesn't want to be here, and just making a scene. And luckily, we were the only two outside when this happened, but my friends could feel the tenseness between us, and I was just so embarrassed for the rest of my party that I couldn't enjoy it. Then a few weeks later, we end up deciding to take a break. Well, by we, I mean he decided we were going to take a break. And this was going to be a 2-week-long break until we left to go to our freshman orientation. And I didn't want to tell anyone that we were broken up, because I didn't want anybody making a fuss over me to make sure I was okay or anything like that. And so I kept a strong face, and when my mom asked me where he was, I just said, oh, he's really busy with work. And I would be on my way to work and just be crying hysterically in the car. I would get to work and pretend like everything was fine, you know, even though my eyes were bloodshot, my face is all puffy, but, you know, I would just pretend that everything was fine. I would come home, put on a happy face for my parents, and then cry myself to sleep. That's where this first video ends, so please check out my college freshman video.